Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Walmsley. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm delighted to have with me today James O'Brien of iIntro, and I want to set the scene a little bit by talking about what I call the 3 Ps, which is fundamental to running a successful recruitment company in my view, and that is people, process, profitability. Now, of course, hire the right people is the foundation, and there is a process that sits behind that, of course, to make sure you lessen the chance of mistakes. But the processes you have within your business can drive efficiencies and can drive success. And pretty much everyone on the webinar today is fully aware of that. And when I first came across James, how long ago? It was some time ago. James will remind me soon, but it's probably back in, I don't know, 2011 or something. And I've been doing some work with the business that he was involved with at the time, because he was managing director of a fairly large executive search firm called Executives Online. And I was helping to implement a training program for James's company in that business at the time. So we got to know each other then. And he is a big subscriber to efficiencies, process, finding better ways to do things, as I am. So we had kind of a common mindset straight away. And within that business, he implemented a service platform that helps recruiters deliver retained recruitment, which is really the holy grail for many recruitment businesses. You know, not just getting the money up front from a customer rather than working on a no-win, no-fee basis, but also getting higher fees by improving the client value proposition. So James has that mentality within him from quite some time ago. You fast forward, it's a bit like the old what was that razor or shaver firm where it was, you know, it was, I thought it was so good I bought the company. Well, James didn't go out and buy the company.
Microscreen.
Yeah, James didn't go out and buy the company, but he joined them, and he's now operations director of iIntro, which really is, it's a proven software as a service platform that helps recruiters to deliver retained recruitment. So James, I'm delighted to have you here. Over to you.
Oh, thanks, Mike. It's good to be with you today, and like you say, it's been a number of years since we first got together, and for all the reasons that you mentioned there, one of the things that was very dear to my heart was obviously how I could improve the performance of my business, to improve the profitability, and to improve the efficiency, and I was seeking that. And that I always remember those fortnightly webinars that we did with my team across Europe and even across Africa, in terms of trying to implement some of that. So they were good times, and it was through that introduction when I first met you that I actually first came across the iIntro platform, because you introduced me to Plum Ivanov, who's the executive chairman and founder of iIntro, with his partner Paul Hickey. And from that meeting that day in London, it led me on a journey which was to help me look at the efficiency of the business I was running, particularly on the permanent recruitment side, because we were very inefficient. We tried to delude ourselves that our efficiency rates were actually as good as 1 in 5, i.e. we had a placement rate or a fill rate of 20%. But when I actually dove down into the statistics, found that actually it was much worse than that. So I was searching for something that could help me deliver something much greater. And that was, from that introduction, it proved to be the iIntro platform. And I helped successfully implement that across our network of over 30 offices around the world. And sort of that's what I'm here to talk about a little bit more today. Because what I found, and I hope that others can find, is by putting in place structure and process into your recruitment business, by systematizing what you do, you can sort of actually go much further than you think you can. Because if you put in place structure and process, then from that will follow greater success for you and your team. And if, like a lot of recruiters, you are either building your own business or trying to build a team of people, what you're looking for is consistency in your processes. And that's what iIntro sort of gave to me. So, Mike, it was sort of thanks to your introduction that I sort of came across the platform. As I say, I really enjoyed it, became very much an advocate of the process. And when I left that business back in 2015, having spent the previous 8 years there, when I sought to go into pastures new, a year or so later, I joined the team here at iIntro, where my focus and remit is really to work with business owners in recruitment firms. And a lot of the firms we deal with are, they're not supersized. Many are, what I call micro businesses. So I really enjoy working with them, helping them implement the iIntro platform and process to help them go and find how they can deliver more recruitment work and more retained recruitment work at higher fees and better success rates. So hopefully
my director program, James, in London, which is the Pinnacle Club.
Yeah.
And we meet every second month. We've got a group of about a dozen non-competing recruitment business owners, and we look at not just competitive advantage but also threats.
Yeah.
And I think right now there are some threats to the marketplace, and more I'm hearing about artificial intelligence. I'm hearing about customers that employers, of course, have gone much more in-house recruitment than ever before. And they're trying their best to save money, of course, and do it themselves. Now, the counter argument to that is that a good contingency recruiter can still make money within those firms and place the odd good candidate and market a good candidate in. But it seems to me the protective measure, as well as the commercial advantage, is to lock the customer in so they're working with you in partnership and you're filling those more difficult positions. Would that be your mindset too?
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges I face when I look at recruitment is that when you compare recruiters with each other, there's so little that differentiates them between each other. And from that point, the client can't determine it either, which means that if you've got two equal products and they're both perceptionally both exactly the same, you end up choosing the cheapest product, which is why we're seeing the downward spiral or the pressure on pricing that we've seen over years in reality. And so I think you've got to show, you mentioned the words earlier, the client value proposition. You've got to show why your client value proposition is that much greater than the competition's, because clients got so much choice. They're inundated with recruiters. And listen, the contingency model, I think it's flawed, but listen, so many people do it, and in their heads they do it very successfully. But when you think of some of the statistics that I mentioned earlier in my own business, and I hear this across lots of businesses as well, 80% of the time that you're working, you're not being paid for. It sort of just beggars belief, really. It doesn't really make sense. So I think we've got to find ways to sort of help improve that, put that forward. So that's really what I want to sort of help people with today. So I've got a few slides to share with people, Mike, so that's okay. I'll sort of run through those. I know people don't want to. Sorry?
I said, please do. Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Didn't quite hear you. The older I get, the deafer I get. So listen, first of all, just share with you the vision of my intro. And it's, we've got a very bold ambition, which is to transform recruitment relationships for permanent placements worldwide by delivering measurably better results for recruiters, employers, and candidates alike. There are three parties to the recruitment process. And this will ensure the right person is in the right job every time, anywhere. And the reason why we looked at this vision is because there are some challenges in the market. And, we talked about efficiencies earlier, but, the recruitment industry is ripe with inefficiency across each one of the component parts. So recruiters typically working on success rates of 1 in 5. And listen, I hear people say my fill rate's 1 in 2, 1 in 3, but generically that's a statistic which, does hold water. Employers, in terms of they've got inbuilt failure. The current recruitment process that they have is inbuilt with failure. They accept that, making a successful hire, 7 or 8 times out of 10 is just the norm. So they've got a churn rate, what we call a churn rate or retention rate of up to 30%. And candidates just means that when they're in the process, they just, they distrust recruiters. They don't believe, they just believe they're a commodity in the marketplace, and they waste time on roles that just don't fit them. So what we look to do is actually try and bring all of that together into the market and actually sort of help it to join up. So we're looking at solving the problem with our platform. So we want to make sure that our recruiters working within the iIntro platform are working on successful roles, not 80-20 the wrong way around, but 80-20 the right way around. We want to make sure that the employers, they actually find a measurable gain and efficiency in the process, because using the platform, using the iIntro platform, we have a retention rate, and I'll sort of quantify that in a moment, of 96%. What I mean by that is 96% of the people that we place using our platform are still in that role 1 year later. Now, many people listening to this will say, well, most of the people I place are still in the job 1 year later. But what we find is that most people actually don't measure that statistic. And clients, if you ask them of the last 10 people they hired, how many people made it more than 1 year, they'll come back to you with 7 or 8 out of 10, which is this churn rate. We're saying we can actually narrow that gap and bring it down to almost zero. We don't want to claim that we're 100% perfect, but 96% perfect is a good rate. For candidates, it means that they're not wasting time talking to recruiters about roles that they may not believe are actually valid. They're going to invest time on roles that fit them personally. Because for a candidate to go into the wrong job that may look okay, it's important. So we're looking to increase efficiency, increase trust, and increase engagement. And using the Intro platform, Intro recruiters are able to part achieve that in terms of bringing that forward. So it was something that was very dear to my heart when I actually looked at the platform.
Now, would a potential summation of that to a client be that we don't place candidates, we place successful hires?
Yeah, and I think this is the important thing, because all of those component parts have to come together to make sure that it's the right hire for the client, the candidate, and the recruiter as well. One of the things that we face as recruiters is, we have a saying in our business that, clients hire on skills and experience, but people are fired or they leave because of the behavioural fit. And it's just as bad for a candidate to go in the wrong job. And I say this out of personal experience, because back before I took my last recruitment job in 2007, in 2006, I took a job with an organisation, and it was a fantastic job, Mike, in terms of well paid. I had the right skills, I had the right experience to do it. Yet within months, I just knew it was the wrong fit for me. It was the wrong type of organisation. And ultimately, it led me to say, I've got to leave. I wasn't fired, but I just felt that it wasn't the right organisation for me. So putting me into, from a recruiter perspective, I had the right skills and experience, but they hadn't matched my beliefs, my value set to the clients. And so on the face of it, I looked okay, but in reality, I wasn't the right hire. And either side of the equation, from the client, the candidate, and the recruiter in some respects, because if I fail, as a recruiter and actually put somebody into a job where they leave, one of those calls we all hate as recruiters is a client phoning up to say, Billy's left. And your heart drops, think, oh, when did I place him? How long has he been there? What's my rebate period or guarantee period? So again, I'll come back to that a little bit later, because one of the benefits of using our platform is because we have such a strong retention rate, that 96% figure that I mentioned before. You find that you're able to, most of people using the Intro platform can offer their clients up to 12 months free replacement, because we've got the science, we've got the evidence, we've got the objectivity to say that we know that people we place will stick. They will still be there in a year's time. So you can give them a guarantee. Again, one of those things to differentiate you.
That's pretty powerful. I remember years ago seeing Romney Rose talk, and he was talking about enhanced guarantees. And I remember sat in the audience watching him and thinking, I'm not so sure about this, because I can't control the manager who's dealing with my candidate and whether they look after them properly or not. What I didn't realise as a young person sat in that audience, and I was a director of the company at the time, actually, of Parker Bridge, watching him, was the cleverness of how you can position that and how you can actually use it to win more business. But if you step forward to now and nowadays and have science that sits behind it with evidence of, if only 4 out of 100 drop out, then a 12-month guarantee makes perfect sense, because statistically you're going to win a lot more business and only have 1 or 2 dropouts, as opposed to 20 or 30 that might leave.
I think you're standing behind what you're offering to the client, whereas a lot of recruiters run and hide. And again, when I speak to recruiters and ask them the question, just think about the people that you're placing into your clients. How many of them are still there 1 year later? And perhaps unsurprisingly, most recruiters say, well, most of mine are still there. So then I ask the next question, which is, well, what is your rebate period? And they'll say 12 weeks. Well, if you know your people are already staying there, subjectively, if we can help back that up with evidence to show the client that this is not just you, putting the finger in the wind, this is you actually saying, no, I've got scientific evidence that will support my decision, and I'll validate that by actually standing behind it and guaranteeing for up to 12 months. It says to the client, it's a very powerful message, Mike, you're right, and it brings it back time and time again, because you do want something that's going to separate you out from the crowd. You do want to step away from the herd and be a little bit different. And that does start to do it. Now, listen, you're not going to be the only person. It's not a unique differentiator, but it is a differentiator against most recruiters that they're dealing with. So I think it's very powerful. But the important words that I said there, Mike, are up to 12 months, because it's all part of negotiation.
Yeah. Well, as you know, James, the company I used to run in the UK, Parker Bridge, I helped build that business from 3 to over 100 people at one stage, and then exited. The business in the UK was sold, the business in Australia was sold, and the major shareholder disappeared to Asia with all his millions and set up Parker Bridge Asia Pac.
Yeah.
That's a thriving business of which I'm still involved, and we have our intro within that company. We call it Parker Bridge Executive Intro, and there's a very interesting spin there which we've managed to pull together to use the tool to win business for the company, in the sense of because it's a little bit different. We are we've basically got a third-party individual who deals with. He's a private wealth advisor, and he deals with large CEOs. Basically, are his clients in the region, because he's a private wealth advisor, and these are reasonably wealthy individuals. And he said to us one day, "How can I introduce these people to you and make some money from it?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. Get them around this board table." Get them to come along to see a game-changing piece of technology that guarantees a minimum retention rate of 96% in the first 12 months. And you get them along to see it. We won't pitch or sell them anything. Any of them that sign up will give you a kickback. And that's a very simple thing to do if you've got something that is different, where you can get other people kind of pushing it out and endorsing it for you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because a couple of things that you've already understood, very well understood, Mike, like myself, is what we're putting in place here is a process, and we're putting structure, because if you systematize something, then you've got something to follow. All too often, a lot of recruitment is just done on a bit of a wing and a prayer, where people are just handed a phone, go and start ringing around clients, getting some jobs on, trawling through a database and spinning some CVs out there. And clients see through that very quickly. It's why there's so much contingent work, because they can't see that value differentiation between each other. Whereas what the iIntro process does, and it is a process, it's not a product, but you're able to demonstrate tangibly to the client what it is we do. Because it's one of those things that people struggle with as clients. They don't know what we do. They just think, there's a job, you disappear, you do your magic, you come back and say, ta-da, there's the 3 or 4 CVs for you to take on from. And they can't see any value in that. And what the iIntro process does is, it puts some structure into that. It gives a roadmap for both the recruiter to follow, but also for the client to understand what's been doing. And we do use multiple layers of assessment and evaluation. Now, one of the things that attracted me to iIntro was that very systematization of it. Because the recruitment business that you mentioned I used to work for, called Executives Online, they're actually a franchise recruitment business. And I've been in franchising for almost 30 years as well, Mike. So I'm very driven on having structure and process and systematization, because I know from that success follows. So I was always looking for things to do that. And in recruitment, it was quite difficult, particularly if you know this better than me, Mike, but when you're trying to train somebody on permanent recruitment, it's sometimes, well, I found it very difficult to sometimes get across to people what we do. What the iIntro platform gave me, because we were opening up new offices throughout our business, and bringing on people to say, this is how we do it, and being able to show them the steps along the way, show them the system, but importantly, show them how to sell. Because all too often I've found in recruitment, and I've seen this more and more now since I've been with iIntro, so I've actually got a broader view now of the marketplace, both in the UK and overseas, because we have clients in 10 countries around the world. I start to see that a lot of recruiters are, again, with the utmost respect to them, they're order takers. The clients give them the order, and they then run off and try to complete it. But when doing it that way, they are competing with everybody else. Whereas if you can actually demonstrate to your client that you have a process, and have to therefore sell that process and demonstrate to them where the value is, it's like a penny drop moment. You see the client sort of wake up, think, so that's what you do. And when clients understand what you do, they'll understand, first of all, when you ask them for the retainer, because that's an important part of it. When you ask them for the retainer, they understand why they should give it to you. You can't just say, I'm a recruiter, we're better than everybody else, and if you give me the work, I'll find you the person, and for that, I'd like to charge 1/3 of my fees up front, please. Client can't understand that. But when you've demonstrated to them a system and a process, and they've been able to see it, touch it, and feel it, they're then able to understand why they can do that. And more importantly than that as well, Mike, or perhaps as importantly, clients start to understand why they should pay a better fee, because they do buy value. Clients won't pay high fees if they can't see where the value is. But most clients, like most of us listening in on this webinar today, will buy things which are more expensive than something else that they could buy which perceptually does the same thing. but there'll be a perceived value to that in terms of what we do. And that's what the iIntro process can do. Maybe just give a quick definition, Mike, of the contingency versus retain versus iIntro process. It might help sort of put some of that into context, perhaps. Is that okay?
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to put up some slides. So I want people who are watching the screen just to have a think about some of these things that are popping up. Because when I speak to recruiters, and you'll have heard this as well a lot, Mike, we ask them, what are their USPs? And they'll say, we're national, we're global, we've got a thorough quality process, we're niche in our market, we're experts, we've got a team of experienced consultants. And it's sort of like, well, so what? That sort of just gets you in the game, doesn't it? And they're not USPs, they may be SPs, but there's nothing very unique about any of those. Because if you've ever been in that situation where the client's doing a beauty parade of recruitment consultants to choose from, you're all going in and you're trotting out the same lines. So we all sound very, very similar. And you know what? You'll win some of the work because one day your face will fit. But what we're trying to give our clients of the iIntro platform is give them a differentiated offering, something that will improve that client value proposition. So, whilst these are still there, these are just the benchmark. That gets you in the game. You should be able to say many of these things anyway. Most of your competitors are saying exactly the same things. Well, when we looked at the recruitment process for contingency, it was very much, you go out there, you identify the role, you give them the job, that order-taking process, you go out, you find your candidates, however you find them, you'll send off the CVs or resumes, the client will come back to you. You're in their process. You're really sort of, going through all of it. And eventually, hopefully, you get to the offer stage, if you're lucky, that one in 5 times. But you're invoicing all or nothing. So it's one of those phrases where you are rolling the dice and paying the price. And it's a game. And, when you're working on very high volumes, you sometimes think you're winning. But, times get hard occasionally. And in those times, you've actually got to have something that's going to sort of make you stand out from the crowd. So what we did is we said, okay, well, that's the contingency process. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just that a lot of the time you're working unpaid. But what's different about the retained process? Now, part of it is, it's a consultative sales process. Maybe they're a better salesperson, Mike, in terms of the people who are doing that. But you're more likely to spend more detailed time with the client. This is where you are saying, I am niche, I am expert in your market, and you're demonstrating it. But you like to put together greater and better quality information. You might put together a candidate briefing pack, which is going to help you go out there into the marketplace and attract high quality candidates. You're going to put in place levels of assessment and evaluation that are going to help evidence the process, which will mean you're going to be able to offer greater insight to the clients. You're going to help the clients by making a more informed decision, but there are still some little kinks in that one that can be ironed out. So what we did is we took the best of contingent, the best of retain, and put that together to create the iIntro process. And it's about improving that. So we took all of the best parts and we digitized the search process. We put it all online because in today's day and age, this is something that should all be there up 24/7. So yeah, it's up there and it's there for clients to see and get into very easily. We provide what they call these multiple layers of assessment and evaluation because we're putting in place science and objectivity into the process. So we're not just saying it's guesswork, because a lot of recruitment from a client perspective is guesswork. They're taking a CV from a candidate, they're reading it, they do what I call coffee shop interviews. Tell me about yourself, and so the candidate recites about the CV. You try and find some common ground, say, hey, that person's a great person, I want to hire them in my organisation. And why are they so surprised that 7-8 months down the track that person leaves? Well, it's because they're not putting that in place. So yeah, our platform, it's all done, it's all hosted, 24/7, 365, it's all up there. So we provide, a full CV, we provide consultant comments, competency-based assessments. We use video introduction, which is fascinating because it helps clients save a lot of time in terms of that, but also gives the candidate the opportunity to get engaged in the process as well, because now they feel empowered because they get the opportunity to talk to the client before they even meet up with them. We benchmark them against each other. We use behavioural assessment, Mike, as well, which is a really important part. And when I speak to a lot of recruiters that say, oh yeah, my clients, they use that in the process, it's normally at the end of the process to justify a decision that they've already made. We actually assess the role before we assess the person. It's one of the things that we do that makes us stand out and be different, because we're looking to find individuals who not only have the right skills and experience, but the right behavioural match, which puts them together. And if you do that at the outset, you're going to save the client's time by not interviewing candidates who would have possibly squeaked through because they had a great CV. But again, as recruiters, we've all seen candidates with great CVs who are very disappointing when you meet them face to face. And you sometimes think, is this the same person? But what all of this does when we bring it all together, using the behavioural assessment, the evaluation, the benchmarking, the competency-based assessment, the video interview that we do, it means that we're able to offer our clients, because of our 96% success rate, extended guarantees of up to 12 months. And again, once we've demonstrated this to a client, when we come around to the part of the equation, we'll say, as you understand, Mr. Client, seeing all the work we put involved, you'll understand why we only work with clients who are serious about working with us, and that therefore means we're going to work with you on a retained basis only. And they say yes. And then we say that the fees will go to charge.
As you're chatting there, I'm just thinking of when I was a non-exec director of a recruitment company, and the owner of the business, the founder of the business, they were making a couple of £1 million a year net profit in that business. Yeah. It's a tidy company, and he wanted to replace himself and make himself dispensable, get an MD to run the business, and he would become chairman. So I suggested go to a search firm and retain somebody so that you get the job done properly. It's not just about going to a rec to rec, but go out there and headhunt somebody. And he said to me, good idea, who can you recommend? So I came up with a few names of, one was a household brand name, which I won't disclose who they are. And then we had a medium-sized business and a smaller company, just to get a broad brush. The household name, the guy who I met was about 27 years old. He looked the part, smart suit, crunching handshake, but he couldn't sell for toffee, in my view. It was all about the brand. It was all about, we are XYZ search firm. That's why you should come with us. Not as bad as that, but the essence of it.
Yeah.
What you're saying to me there straight away, with if he'd have hit me with 12-month guarantee, it sends a real message of conviction and confidence that you can find those people, obviously, and you're going to get it right. Yeah. And I also like your soundbite there. Perhaps everyone can pick up on this, because it has resonance with people who get it wrong. Coffee shop interview, tell me a bit about yourself, which is sadly what a lot of people do, even employers do, because they're not fully trained how to interview effectively. In fact, I saw a stat on Twitter recently, and it said I think it was 60% of all hiring managers have never had any interview technique training. So if we ever wonder as recruiters why sometimes employers put our candidates off, that's one element of it. But you can settle against these things, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the nice things we do is I'm trying to talk about a systematized process here, but also one of the things that we do to help our clients, as in the people who are listening today potentially, is we spend a lot of time training our clients on how to sell, because it's not simple. This isn't about taking an order, and there's a structure to a sales meeting as well that has to be followed. And there's some very critical and key questions that we bring in. It's all about identifying pain points, because one of the things I find is clients don't understand that their current process is broken. They just accept it. It's the way it's done, and we have to sort of make them feel that pain. And what I try to do when I'm actually training people, Mike, on how to sell retain search, is I get them to think about a hot coal. If I put a hot coal on your arm and take it away straight away, what would you say, Mike?
Ouch.
Ouch, yeah. Now, if I take that hot coal and leave it on there for 10 minutes and take it off 10 minutes later, I'm going to and put some soothing balm on that. That's what we teach people to do, Mike, because too many recruiters and too many salespeople just go for the ouch impact, and the client doesn't feel the pain, so they just carry on in that what they think is a normal process. What we have to do is make them understand that their current process is like a hot burning coal, and we can fix it for them. And it's it takes some clever questioning and clever technique to do that. But when you do it, very very successfully, you find clients all of a sudden they realise, that 96% success rate you're talking about, it sort of sounded a bit so what. But what that means to the client, because you've got to turn these back into benefits, Mike, is that that's why you will stand behind your 12-month guarantee, because you've got some science, you can evidence the process. You're not just guessing about it, and you're helping the clients understand that what they're currently doing, if they carry on doing the process the way they currently are, it is going to fail. But there's also some very other clever tools. Some of that behavioural profiling we do. We use multiple systems, but one of our favourite systems we use as a system that's written in very simple English. You don't need to be a behavioural psychologist. It's one of those things that puts a lot of people off behavioural assessment or psychometric profiling, because they think you need to be a trained interpreter. But quite simply in that process, we actually help the client, the end client, with some good questioning techniques to avoid that coffee shop interview. Because you're right, that 60% stat, I'm sure a number of people listening to this today will have actually possibly sat in on client interviews, and they really are appalling. They can be eye-opening. So, we've got tools to help the clients as well, because we need our clients to hire successfully, because when they hire successfully, they appreciate the value that we offer. And it's one of the reasons why, one, they'll come to us retained, and two, they'll pay us more than the 15% they're paying on a PSL or less. And when I actually introduced this back into the iIntro business back in 2013, 2014, it was the first time in over 5 years, Mike, that we actually asked for 30% and got it. Now we weren't top end search firm. Our sweet spot was in the 70 to 100K. So hopefully people listening today, that's the market you're in. But convincing clients that this is a better way to do it. If we can save them time, if we can save them money, and show them a structured process that's going to guarantee an output and a successful output, they buy it.
Have you got any stats, James, in regard to the average fees that iIntro customers are getting in terms of percentage?
Yeah, that's a nice segue, that is, Mike, into what we call the guinea pig story. Because what we did is, why we actually took that change, why we actually looked at the contingent process, the retained process, and brought together the iIntro platform is we were looking to identify where the failure points, where does it fall down, and we understood that if we could mitigate those failure points, we could add value into the process. But that's when we understood that it was the process that was the problem, because too many people were skipping it. They were skipping past the process. So the original company that adopted the iIntro process, a company called Grass Greener, it was owned by the founders, Plum and Paul. And we introduced it to them because where they were at that particular stage, they were in a market which is probably familiar to a lot of people. A lot of competition, you're being driven to go on a PSL, competing on price, competing on speed, no real USPs. You weren't even measuring your attention levels, but your reputation wasn't there either. And that's where this business was at that particular time when they first started out on this journey. And it's important to note, Mike, is moving from being a contingent recruiter to offering more or more retained recruitment or less contingent work. It's a journey. It's not an overnight sensation. You don't become a good salesman without practice and putting it into place. But what happened with them is they changed, and they changed over an 18-month period. They increased their fees. They actually started to have some differentiation, high retention levels, more repeat business, more predictable results. A lot more efficiency gains that came to that business because they'd systematized what they were doing. It was easier for both them to follow and for their clients to follow. And their results were, we sit here today, this was 6 years ago, their results now, £4.5 million later, probably a little bit more now, but the results that they saw in their business, Mike, were astounding because the Grass Greener Group, they weren't a high-end recruitment business. They were working in the 30, 40, 50,000 pound marketplace, but they actually increased their average fee by 253%. Now that sounds staggering, but the bizarre thing about recruitment, or one of the things I find bizarre, is what happens in recruitment. You get the multiplier effect. If you're charging 15% of a £40,000 fee, you're making £6,000. But if you're charging 25% of a £60,000 fee, all of a sudden you're making £15,000. So your fees start to go up exponentially, and that's what happened to Grass Greener Group. So today they went from an average of just over £6,000, and they're closer to, I think it's £16,000 today. They transformed their business from being 100% contingency to being a fully retained model. That's not right for every one of our clients. It's just where they got to, because we're not saying that there are times when you're not going to win everything on a retained basis, but it's up to you. But that success rate that they had means that 96% of the candidates they have are still in a job 1 year later, and 90% of their still in place over 2 years later, because they've started to track that statistic. And just one other little thing in there, Mike, is I know that Grass Greener, what they do with some of their clients, because they've been working with them for years now using this process, is they do offer them a 24-month free replacement guarantee. Not on every client, not on every role, but on certain roles. So, that sort of is I've never heard that from anybody else so far. So again, that's really putting your money where your mouth is. And they had some good success in some of the awards they won as well.
Very interesting.
So, go on, Mike.
No, I was just saying very interesting. I didn't know about the 2 year thing. I knew about the 1 year.
Yeah.
But And I think anyone listening to that, you think, oh, that's brave. But years ago, I remember talking to somebody who did search in senior financial recruitment, accountancy recruitment, placing partners of accountancy firms. So he did something in his own way, a little bit similar. So he offered a major extended guarantee based upon the fact that he analysed how many dropouts he was having, and he wasn't having many. So therefore, he was able to offer something with conviction, safe in the knowledge it's less likely to happen. But what you're doing here is more concrete, because you're able to show evidence of that to customers.
And that's the thing. Again, come back to what I said earlier. The intangible recruitment process. How do you make an intangible tangible? And by putting in place an evidence-based recruitment process, you can actually help the clients understand what you do, because they can now see what we do. There's work, there's effort that goes into this. We haven't just magicked up some CVs for them. We've actually put a process in place, a structure, a system, and we then present all of that evidence in an online collaborative platform that helps the client make a better decision, because now they feel more empowered because they've got a lot more information at their fingertips. They're not just trying to guess from a CV, is this person good or bad? Because CVs, again, every recruiter listening to this has seen a fantastic CV of a candidate who just doesn't cut the mustard in reality. And unfortunately, sometimes what happens is those candidates, slip through the system. And what I mean by that is they get a job, but then they leave after a fairly short period of time because they're disruptive. They're not the right type of person for that client. And that reflects badly on the recruiter, and therefore our industry starts to have this, in terms of not the greatest of reputations. And we look to improve that. We want to make sure that our clients and the clients of our clients come back time and time again because they see a thorough, demonstrable process that's quality driven, has system, that has structure, but importantly is backed up by people who know how to deliver that platform, because they've been cleverly trained on how to actually get this process across the client so the client sees the value that really is there being offered by the recruiter. So summing some of this up, Mike. Go on.
Just conscious of time, because I'm sure we'll be asked. We'll open the questions up shortly. If anyone, I appreciate Jen's got a bit more to go through, but if anyone is thinking of a question right now, please pop it into the chat room on the the GoToMeeting display, GoToWebinar display at your end, and then I'll pick those up and pose them to James. But for now, James, if I can just pass back to you.
Yeah, Mike. Really, I'm just coming towards the end before we can open up. But what we found with the iIntro platform, it's good for four parties. For the clients, there are three key benefits that we do to the clients. We're going to reduce their commercial downtime. What do we mean by that? We're going to reduce the time they waste on interviewing people who just aren't right. What I mean by that is not just people who are obviously not right, but people who may have actually got through the process before because they look right on paper. So we're going to save them a lot of time. More importantly, we're going to save them a lot of time from employing the wrong person, because that has a huge impact on the business. And the CIPD, the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development in the UK, estimate that the cost of a bad hire in the first year is up to 3 times the salary. Now, if you're recruiting somebody at £50,000, that means the impact on that business is £150,000 if they get it wrong. And that's a huge impact. And again, we train people on how to use some of these statistics in the selling process to make the client aware that what they're currently doing isn't working. And if they carry on doing it, they're just extending that particular poor practice. And we're looking to help them with that. We're going to improve their employee retention or reduce their staff churn, whichever way around you wish to choose it, because our 96% success rate means that it's better than the 70 to 80% success rate they're probably currently working on. And we're going to reduce their overall cost to hire. Now, importantly, this doesn't mean we're going to reduce our fees. We're actually going to increase our fee from what we're currently charging, but they're not going to be hiring as often to recruit the same position. So there's some measurable benefits there to a client that are important to them. As I said, all focused around time and money. For candidates, we're actually going to empower them in the process. No longer are they going to feel like a commodity in the process. They're going to feel empowered, they're going to be engaged in it, and they're going to be committed. Because again, as recruiters, we've all seen candidates get towards the end of the process and they disappear because they've got another job somewhere else. Our process engaging them early on in the process makes them feel part of the process, so they're more likely, if they go through the process, they're more likely to accept that job and stay in place. For recruiters, we're going to help you actually sell. We're going to give you some unique differentiation that's going to help you earn the market. You're going to win more retained business than you're currently doing, hopefully. We're going to sort of take you from offering however much you do to going up to as much as 100% if that's what you wish to. Which means that ultimately, because our process is focused on you generating retained work with more probable fee income than you're currently achieving, because you're charging higher fees, you're going to earn more commission. And for business owners listening today, there's a couple of things. We've got a genuine USP to help you attract staff, because we also use our process on recruiting our own staff. So into your business, you should use this as part of your internal platform. It helps your potential recruiter who joins your business understand that you've got some structure, you've got some process, and you've also got a great sales tool that you're going to be able to use to help them go out there and win more business. So you've got that tool, and it will help you improve your cash flow, because the highs and lows, or the peaks and troughs of working on contingent recruitment, where it's sort of all or nothing, means that we can actually project forward in terms of knowing what income is going to be coming in, because we've actually charged on a typical retainer basis. It might be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, or some other variant of that. So again, you've got some improved cash flow there.
Mm. Would it also be easier to hire recruiters into an organisation, because you don't need necessarily a 360 recruiter? It's more somebody who's competent at selling the retainer, and then the hires that you have will be more resources and researchers filling the jobs.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there, Mike, with regard to some of the different skill sets. So the 360 recruiter, can they perform as well as perhaps a rainmaker who's actually going to go out there and win the work and actually work with a team of resources, or people who may be a little bit less junior in terms of helping fill those roles? Because you've got the structure and the process in there, the presentation tool will evaluate that. And again, it comes back to this systematization that you've been talking about, which is say you've got that structure, you've got a roadmap to follow for every part of the process. And some people are good at one part of the job and not so great at the other. And again, we've all probably seen people who've been great at filling jobs, but aren't great at winning work. Well, don't try and squeeze them, and don't try and force them to selling, because I've seen this in my own business, where we've lost good recruiters, people who are good at recruiting, but just because they weren't that great at selling. And they're different skill sets. So I think depending on what your business model is, you can accommodate either or both. But there certainly is room there to say, hey, help people go out there into the marketplace and win some of that.
Okay, interesting.
Mike, I just thought I'd show a quick video, if that's all right, because we've got a couple of minutes. Just a quick video of what some of our other clients have said. So it might be a bit of a self-promotion here, but hopefully you'll be able to just have a good listen. It's only a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Try and turn it up.
We started using iIntro in September 2014. At the time, we presented a product that had what we could see a huge amount of potential, but what it looks like today is vastly different. But the concept behind the value they add to the point of shortlist was really what was it. We've always been looking for something to differentiate ourselves and our company in the marketplaces that we work. When I saw the tool, it was everything that we needed. It's been great going to work. We contribute all you need to the marketplace. It's been an added value to our retained customers. They will now see more justification to the prices that we charge because of result delivery through iIntro.
As a recruiter, we use iIntro now for probably 4 years or thereabouts. So basically, previously, what we normally get, we would get a CV, we would get some cursory notes of myself, regards to the level of detail, and then they basically take employment. Do we want to spend time on the phone with this guy? Do we want to find some individual, this lady who doesn't look at me with us? It gives them so much what I call texture around the candidate's personality, behaviour, and culture.
We're a recruitment business that prides ourselves on quality delivery. Anyway, it just seemed like a very nice lead into what is now, or what we perceive to be the future of recruitment.
Right, that's just a few of our clients who obviously are happy with the service that we provide. But one of the best things in terms of to help people understand, and one of the things that we offer to all people is to take a test drive of the platform. And to do that, what I'd urge people to do is book a one-to-one demonstration, either be with myself or Paloma and Ivan off the founder and executive chairman of iIntro. And people can just go straight into booking into our calendar. You can see it there. It's www.i-intro.net/thank-you. And that's where people can book themselves a personal demonstration. But,
thank you very much for that, James. You know, I think ordinarily when I host webinars, we've got an expert sharing some knowledge of something that somebody can learn and implement into their business. Today, I think you've fulfilled two parts. One is you've given some real nuggets. There are some simple little phraseologies that I can take away and use. The second thing is, one of the reasons I was so pleased to have you here today was I'm using this within Parker Bridge in Asia Pac, and we know the impact it can have. And as you know, James, I know of a number of other people who are also using. I know some of the people on that video, for example. So I'm very passionate about your product as a tool that can transform the industry, and I wish you every success with it, because it's a powerful differentiator, and it's going to help companies to fill more jobs at better rates and margins. But that's my personal feeling. So if I'd like to now invite questions. Does anyone have a question? If so, you can simply put yes in the chat box if you wish. Alternatively, you can ask your question directly in there. So I'm just going to put it in here. I'm just going to say hello to everyone, and you'll see that flashing up at your end. So if you have a question, you can pop it in there. I've got a few questions coming in, I think. We've got a question here saying it's from Craig, and Craig's saying, what's the pricing model?
Okay. Very simply, it is a software as a service. We offer a subscription to our platform. It's a company license, and we've got different models depending on the number of people that are based on the business. So we know we're very conscious, and I think I mentioned this earlier, that a lot of our clients are micro businesses. So we believe we have a pricing model which reflects the value that we offer, but also the affordability that all businesses need. So again, one of the things that we do, Craig, is if you book a demo, we'll actually show you, we'll take you into the platform, because we haven't shown it to you today. That's